Around the globe, millions of university graduates face the difficult task of finding a job, whether it's due to steep competition from a growing global workforce or antiquated knowledge and skills by the time they graduate. The acceleration of Web 3.0 and the rise of the Metaverse introduces a host of new opportunities for students, if they're strategic. Raulvin Coke will address the importance of considering the mega trends of the Metaverse when designing your university learning journey for a competitive advantage. Welcome, Raulvin Coke.
Hello, my name is Raulvin Coke, founder and CEO of Futurewise Media and Consulting Group, and I'm super excited to be here today to talk to you about the rise of the Metaverse economy and the future of work. As you know, there's been a lot of conversation about the Metaverse. You're hearing all these things about gaming, NFTs, cryptocurrency. And what I want to do today is talk to you a little bit about what does that mean for you as a university student, right? You're currently in university and you're hearing all these things flying around, but what are the implications for university students? And so that's what we're going to try to break down today, to really talk to you through a few things. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we're going to go ahead and get started. So rise of the Metaverse economy and the future of work. Like I said, today I want to start off by talking about the impact of the pandemic. Give us a little bit of context, talk about the future of work then and now, some of the current or the past trends and what were the actual implications, what actually did happen, rise of the Metaverse and the mega trends and the areas of opportunities for you, and then talk about a few key takeaways and how you can shift into this upcoming and evolving Metaverse economy. So a few years ago, I would say at the very end of 2019, I was at a conference with a number of HR leaders. It was a design thinking conference. And we were talking about what is the future of work and what are the implications for HR? So a lot of talk there. And back then, there had recently been a study done on what would the future employee look like. And so what I want to do is go back in time a little bit and talk to you about Emma. So back at the end of 2019, Emma was what they were saying was going to be the future office worker. This could be your colleague. This is what they were saying. And because of the work environment at the end of 2019, they were saying employees weren't happy. They were sitting in their chairs for a number of hours. This is what could actually happen to the body. Permanently bent back, rounded stomach caused by sedentary work, varicose veins, and all these things. And so, I put this up here today to think about, I wonder if because they put this out, the pandemic kind of kicked off and we saw a whole change in how, we thought about work. Because guess what? Everyone started to work from home. People had more freedom. They probably were still a little sedentary, but they weren't sitting behind their desk the way they used to, right? They were still having more time to be with family and do some of the things that they love as they develop a new work-life balance and still were able to be productive at work. So I just wanted to go back in time a little bit, but back then Facebook was larger than 3 of the world's biggest companies. When we talk about the number of users that were on Facebook, and that currently are, and now we're seeing, maybe less people, but we're going to get into that. The impact of social media and the number of people that were online is enormous. And so just to think that Facebook alone in 2019 had more people than 3 of the world's largest companies, really put that into perspective, right? And so here were some of the global trends or key trends with future of work back at the end of 2019. So we were talking about automation, looking at automation and some of the key artificial intelligence, all those things that were coming into the workforce. Employee experience was a big topic. Skill gaps, and we're going to talk about that later. There were gap in skills and how we're going to keep up with technology. Evolution of leadership. Looking at the leaders and how do leaders encourage and work with an evolving workforce when we had 3 different generations in the workforce. Talent mobility, people shifting around across the globe, and open economy across the globe. Generational diversity and agility. Right? How we become more agile in delivering products and services to the end customer more quickly. So these were the topics, but we all know when the pandemic hit, it had a major impact on the world, right? The world economies they're still struggling. We're still struggling. They're struggling with unemployment. We're We're still seeing that now. Gas prices are going through the roof here in the United States, and all the issues that are going on in the world, major recessions that are continuing to happen. People are still migrating across the globe. Tourism probably a little better, but it's probably going to slow down because of fuel prices. So again, the pandemic really slowed things down, but at the same time, sped a few things up. And so we saw some mega trends in the evolution and acceleration of the metaverse. And when I say metaverse, I'm really encompassing the foundations of the internet or the web 3.0. We saw more adoption in blockchain technology. People were talking about it and starting to now leverage blockchain technology. We saw more interest in NFTs, non-fungible tokens, and cryptocurrency. So now these things are starting to become real. People had more time to kind of look into what was actually happening because they were at home and able to focus on the news and see what was happening and how can they do something different because they were finding more purpose in their lives because they were remote, right? The rise in unemployment, all these things kind of help to accelerate what they're calling the metaverse and this shift into the web 3.0. And I'm not going to dive deeply into it, but when we talk about the metaverse, what are we talking about? And I like to think about it in three phases so far. When we think about the internet or the web starting in the 90s. And so depending on who's listening, you guys are a little younger, but the internet, the first phase of that was in the 90s, and that lasted about 15, 20 years or so until we got into 2004. And that's when we saw the rise. And that's when I was in college, around 2004, the Facebook came around, and that's when social media and MySpace really started to pick up. It's kind of where we are today with mobility and influencers and all these jobs that came out of it. And so now as we start to pivot from 2004 to where we are right now, 2022, we're starting to shift into the internet 3.0. Think about it like an iPhone or a new generation of the iPhone. This is a new generation of the internet. This is what the metaverse is. So it's an evolution into a more immersive experience of the web that we have not seen before, as opposed to just looking at it on a flat screen or looking at it on a mobile device. How do we become more embedded and immersed into it to have more of a physical, fully immersive experience? And so that quick, I'm sure some other people talked about the metaverse, but I want to talk about that really quickly before we move forward. And so we heard Mark Zuckerberg announce last year that, hey, Facebook is now going to be Meta. Meta is going to be the parent company. And people were like, whoa, what is Meta? And I think that was really the time when it started to become real for society, right? A lot of people are still pushing back on that because he's using a term that we feel that he might want to brand the whole metaverse, and people think that metaverse is just Facebook, but that's not the case. Mark Zuckerberg said, this is the frontier. This frontier is about business and creating a future to unlock a massively bigger creator economy. And that's just from his perspective. So the metaverse economy has seen a record of $1.3 billion in startup investments alone in 2021, right? There are a huge number of investments in this, and you're probably still thinking, okay, I know what the metaverse is because he's talked about that, but what is the metaverse economy? So I like to describe it as a virtual world economy where transactions in digital currency and assets like NFTs power the expansion of virtual services and experiences and goods to eventually exceed our current physical economy. That's right. So in the background, you can see there's like a Gucci bag, and these companies are all rushing into the metaverse to figure out, once people are embedded and they're fully immersed into the metaverse, how do we make sure that our goods and our services are still offered there? How does your eye doctor expand their business and reach more people around the globe? If they can do that in the metaverse. And I've spoken to some companies that are looking to do just that. What does it look like when your university that was local, can only take a certain amount of students, but now they can expand into the metaverse and across the globe. And we're doing some of that already. You're thinking with Zoom and doing it online, but it's still a different experience, right? And so we're seeing a number of companies, metaverse real estate, thinking about that. As we talk about companies that are moving into the metaverse, how do they set up? We're talking about organizations that they have remote workers, and how do we get companies or employees to fully engage? Well, guess what? They're thinking about creating a digital twin of their organization, meaning a virtual copy of the way their headquarters look, and putting it into the metaverse so that their employees can join them, their other colleagues inside of the metaverse, inside of the building in the metaverse. So there are a number of opportunities. So architect, that means we need architects to create buildings. That means we need designers, right? Real estate agents are moving into the metaverse. It's a huge economy. Metaverse concerts. So we're seeing a lot of musicians in record labels, and the whole music industry is shifting. How do we create tokens out of the music? And one of my favorite artists, Nas, a few weeks back, turned 2 of his songs into NFTs and gave ownership to his fans, right? And so we're looking at a new economy, a new way to take intellectual property and monetize it. Kids are in there creating skins and selling them. And so here, when we look at the metaverse market capitalization, right? You see there are a number of different areas, and these are all companies building the metaverse. We have experience, who's building the experience inside of the metaverse, right? Discovery, how do we put on goggles and go in there and do things and play games? The creator economy, for the creators, like I talked about, kids or people just creating content to go inside of the metaverse. Spatial computing, decentralization, human interface, infrastructure, all these things need to take place. And that's why I say it's a huge opportunity as a student. As these companies are entering into the metaverse, and customers and consumers become comfortable with Web 3.0, large brands they're definitely going to create jobs they need to. So they're rushing in right now. Like I said, Gucci, some of the largest brands that we see. Nike has created Nike Land inside of Roblox. Like I said, Snoop Dogg, one of the rappers, is creating his Snoop Land, I think, in the sandbox. And they're running a number of different concerts, and they're testing these things out. And so there are new jobs and new careers that are going to pop up. And I just listed a few that I just came across, but we can list any number of careers that you can think of today are going to have some type of role inside of the metaverse. In the same way, at the end of 2008, as we started to shift into a more social media after the iPhone came around and they started to create apps, we needed a new influencer. And so that influencer economy started to pop up, and Facebook advertising, new roles came out of that. So when we look at the new careers for the metaverse, we need metaverse research scientists. We need world builders. I talked about the architects, and I've spoken to a few architects, and and it's funny because sometimes people don't think about it as a metaverse role. And this is the key thing that you guys are gonna have to think about too. How do you take your role or what you're doing today in the physical world and translate that into the metaverse? That's going to be the key. One of my friends, Fatima Monfarad, who is the CEO of Spaces, she told me when she came out of college, she was just going to be a regular architect. And one of her friends tapped her and said, guess what? We're working on this project in the virtual world, and we'll love you to design something for us that we can place into this virtual environment, right? And so if you're an interior decorator, maybe think about that. The ecosystem design. People need to tell stories inside of the metaverse. Disney is entering there. And I think that Disney World is actually doing something. I didn't put it in here, but they're actually working on creating cities. And they're looking for storytellers and designers. And I think what they want to do is take entire communities, have people buy homes in those communities, and overlay it with augmented reality. And that's also a part of the metaverse. We think about VR and putting on goggles and that just being the metaverse. But what about when we overlay some of these things on top of our physical world, the same way they did with Pokemon Go, and you see these things in your real experience, maybe with some shades on, and eventually, like we saw in the movie Minority Report, they probably want to put contacts in your eyes eventually so you can just see everything around you. So anyway, for that, we need the metaverse hardware and software builders, right? We need metaverse planners. One of the biggest things is cybersecurity, right? As we begin to move into a place where people are using avatars, we don't know who they really are. We're going to need to understand, who is that person that's in here? Is it an augmented? And here's another thing, you might see someone inside of that metaverse and you're thinking, is that a real person, or is it an artificial intelligent being or entity that's communicating with me? And they understand how to communicate with humans because they're in there so long, and machine learning kind of takes off. And that's one thing that we need to keep our finger on. But right, we need to make sure that we have that cybersecurity, and we need XR safety managers to make sure that people are protected. Anyone knows when people put on a mask and they're able to change their identity, it's almost like a different personality in there. And so one of the things that you'll probably hear about later is our metaverse intelligence quotient that my partner is going to talk about. But huge issue, but here are a few roles that you can think about as we enter into the metaverse. But that's only one side of the coin, right? I talked about jobs, but what about the creators that are developing content and experiences inside of that metaverse economy? I'm not going to go too deep into this, but for the entrepreneurs out there or people looking to start a business or just like to create content, here's one example of Beeple. You probably came across his work. Mike Winkleman, he's a digital artist. Early in 2020, had never sold a digital print. He was just posting on Instagram here and there. People might buy an image for up to $100. But early in 2021, what he saw that, hey, someone tapped him and said, guess what? You can sell that in the metaverse. You can turn that into an NFT, that artwork that you weren't really making much money around. You can turn that into something huge. And, sold for $69 million at Christie's art auction. I think there's been some controversy lately around this. But again, the opportunity is there. And even if this wasn't necessarily a real story, maybe it was set up, I'm not sure what all the details are, they're showing you the opportunities. And sometimes these things happen. They create a story for you just so it can open your eyes so you can see what the opportunities are. And this is one of the opportunities. If you are an artist, someone that's a creator, this mega opportunity, they call it the metaverse economy, but it's also the creator economy, right? If you're creative, think about how you can take your intellectual property, turn that into an NFT, put it on the blockchain, and probably auction it off. We're also seeing design to earn and play to earn opportunities. And they're experimenting. And like I said, design to earn is where we're seeing a lot of people creating, and even kids creating their own skins inside of Roblox and selling it for Robux, right? So they're learning how to be creators and the value of exchange of goods and services. Play to earn, we're seeing in the rural Philippines, it's kind of like an experiment that they're running there where they're taking a game called Axie Infinity and people are creating their own income that they didn't necessarily have from a job, right? So it creates, I think they're saying like $2,000 a month upwards by people playing the game and earning from play to earn. So there are so many new concepts that are going to come about that you need to keep your finger on. But if you're thinking about it purely from educational perspective, right? When we're thinking about the workforce, I want to point you to what the World Economic Forum was talking about with the top 10 skills of 2025. And we're moving to that pretty rapidly. I think they put this list out in 2020, right? And as you can see here, it's like analytical thinking, innovation, active learning and learning strategies, leadership and social influence, creativity, originality, and initiative, right? Technology use, monitoring and control, technology design, reasoning, problem solving, and ideation. So we didn't see anything that's really had to do with coding. It's like technology design, some programming, but most of these are soft skills, right? Most of these are soft skills, and there's a reason why. I want you to focus on the 3 areas of skills when you're thinking about designing your university and your learning journey, whether inside of the school and outside of it as well. There's perishable skills, semi-durable skills, and durable skills. And if you can take a look here, you'll see that the perishable skills are really those specific technological skills that are updated frequently, whether it be some type of C++ or some type of coding that you would find. It always changes, right? Because technology is moving so rapidly that the life of that skill set is really diminishing quickly. So it only has up to about less than 2.5 years. You see the semi-durable skills that have between the 2.5 and the 7.5 lifespan is really around creating frameworks and knowledge of specific technologies, processes, and tools. So think about agility and things like that. Those are things that have a good lifespan. And durable skills, those are those soft skills that like design thinking, project management, effective communication, leadership, those mindsets, right? And so when you're thinking about developing yourself, I want you to make sure that at your foundation, you have those durable core skills, because those are going to be the thing that set you apart. That creativity, that innovation, the ideation, those are the things that the organizations are going to be looking for. And those semi-durable skills, right? Being able to create frameworks and think differently. But at the same time, because the metaverse is moving so rapidly, I want you to think about how do you transition and take that framework, create a framework, and say, okay, guess what? I'm in university right now. Here's my major, right? But what are some of the soft skills that I can add on to that? And then think about some of those, maybe those skills that may not last so long is going to be around fluency in the metaverse because it's evolving so rapidly, but you still need that, right? So I'm going to talk to you about a few key takeaways that you can leverage to think about how do you transition yourself into the metaverse, leveraging your university skills as well. So start to gain fluency in the metaverse concepts, right? I want you to brainstorm on your role, on the role that your university major right now plays or can play inside of the metaverse, and how can you contribute or bring innovation around that particular topic? Because everything that's in the physical world, for the most part, is going to have to shift or transition into that metaverse, or they're going to find a way to make it fit. And so right now we're seeing that we're in the early adopter phase where we're building the foundations of the metaverse, right? And it's really around the technologists, right? And then you have the content creators, but then there's a whole middle piece that's still missing, right? And that's where you come in to start to think about that. If you want to get into the space, professional networking, think about who can you network with or join the conversation on LinkedIn or Instagram or Clubhouse or WhatsApp, whatever the popular channel is, wherever you are. There are a whole host of them, but I know this is a global audience. See where they're talking about the metaverse, see where they're talking about crypto or blockchain, and see where they're talking about DAOs, right? And I didn't go into all the concepts of the metaverse because it can get confusing, but see where you can add value, build your reputation in your personal brand, share your ideas, create thought leadership around, again, your major, right? If you want to take your major and pull it into the metaverse, be that person that is like, hey, this is something that's needed, and start to talk about it, right? Because you're going to be that expert, having that foundational knowledge, and then you're going to be the one thinking about how does this map to the metaverse? And then again, develop a continuous learning mindset. I think that's the biggest key component about the metaverse, having a growth mindset. And because I said these skills that we have, if you don't have the right skills, they can become antiquated, right? So if you have a continuous learning mindset, that's the key. That's one of the key mindsets that's going to make you a success in any area, whether it be in the metaverse or any job that you have. Learning something new every day and contribute via thought leadership. And that's what I say is going to be the key. So hopefully you took a lot away. Charles Darwin says it's not about the strongest of the species that survives, but rather that which is most adaptable to change. And the world is changing rapidly. We've seen it change, over the last 2 years. It's moved so quickly. I don't think anyone could really keep up or fathom that we would be where we are today. But if you're able to be adaptable to change and adjust to change and see the opportunity in change, those are going to be the winners. So if you want to learn more about the metaverse, I have a new show that I host. It's called Metaverseology, where I talk to thought leaders around the globe, developers that are building the metaverse, thought leaders, people that are looking at the skills, cryptocurrency, all these things to really demystify the metaverse, to see how we can contribute and see where the gaps are and how everyone can help build a better metaverse for the world. And that's it. I hope you enjoy. My name is Raulvin Coke. Like I said, the founder and CEO of Futurewise Group and host of Metaverseology podcast. Hope you enjoyed the session. Thank you.